Welcome to another episode of Becoming More Me. I have some incredible news to share with you today, and I'm also going to give you a sneak peek into the week 9 bonus training that's part of my 8-week free coaching program for the launch of my book, which is happening this week. I can't wait to share all of this with you guys. Oh my goodness. Stepping into this episode on the morning of November 7th, which is the day after I launched the digital copy of my book, Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom. And it was really important to me to come in here, like before the sun comes up. It's literally still dark outside. And it's a school morning. I got to get my kids up soon. But when I got up this morning, I was like, I need to capture the energy of what actually happened yesterday before that day is like gone and I'm like out of that energy completely, because it was a complex and beautiful and just amazing day. And so yesterday, November 6th, by the time you're listening to this, it will have been a few days ago, was when I, had put all my efforts towards, getting my Kindle version of my book out. There's obviously going to be a paperback version coming out on 11/11, and the Audible version is hopefully also coming out on 11/11. However, Amazon's review time may extend that release date a few days further out, and I simply don't know at time of recording. So if there are any updates, I will make sure that those are in the show notes. This is going to be a podcast episode, and this is also going to be the 9th week of coaching in my 8-week free coaching program, which got extended by a week because so did my launch, and I wanted to give throughout this process in my Becoming More Me free community. So whether you're listening to this where you enjoy podcasts or whether you're listening to this in my community, I have a lot to share with you today. And for those of you who listen to this as a podcast, if you have not been into my community and you have not experienced the other 8 weeks of coaching that preceded this, I invite you to use the link in the show notes, join my community, and enjoy those 9 weeks of coaching now, along with reading the book. There's so much to deepen your experience and just make it exponentially more transformative. So enjoy that. And you can enjoy that with the book. You can enjoy that without the book. You can enjoy it together is optimally the way to do it. But man, we've been having fun over there. And if you're not part of my community, you may not also realize that while I had a much larger community on Facebook, I chose to move to an off social media platform in the summertime. And it's a very small community right now, and it's growing beautifully with all the right aligned people in it. And it's a great place to get that coaching, get your questions answered, have community engagement around the subjects that we talk about, especially as we dive into this book. And we're talking about, money blocks and procrastination and childhood trauma and adult trauma and our inner children and our resistance to things and our dreams and goals and our desires for success and bringing our intentions into physical reality. All of that is being discussed and worked on in real time in that community. So if you're part of it, love you. I'm so glad you're there. If you're not part of it, get over there so I can love you and be so glad you're there. And so yeah, let's get back into yesterday. So we launched the digital version, and I've been very transparent about the efforts that go into launching a book. It's not like you just put it out there and then people just swoop to it. I've also been very transparent about sharing the marketing plan that I shared and everything else. And man, people showed up in droves yesterday, and I'm just so grateful. I woke up to, I think the first post was from friend and former client who's really been with me from the beginning. She was part of my business when I focused mainly on health, fitness, and nutrition, and she transitioned with me and came right along. She was like one of those people that was like my people. When I made that break from one business to another, I lost a lot of interest of people who really just wanted to do outer work when I shifted towards more inner work. And she came right along with me, and I woke up to her, story that she had, purchased the book and that she couldn't wait to read it. And thank you, April. And then, it went from there, from people, sending messages and, sharing in their stories, posting, sending out emails on my behalf, messaging friends and, saying, get this book today, people, just recording things and sharing it, saying, let's make Theresa a bestseller today. And, man, I get so emotional because I hate asking for help, and I asked for it and it just showed up so beautifully. And I just couldn't believe it. Just could not believe it. My beloved business coaches, promoted me in their group and, showed up. And I mean, I know that's not even something they normally do. And, I realized a week or so ago, I was like, I shouldn't just be going for, a bestseller in the United States, which is, if you don't understand selling books on Amazon, it's a complicated and weird process. And the whole reason for launching the digital copy of the book before the paperback and the Audible is that if you launch them all at the same time, they actually compete against each other, and they can prohibit success as far as rankings and things are concerned. Stupid. And, I've said it before and I'll say it again, like, this is just a stupid status thing, the bestseller thing, but it's also a huge accomplishment. Like, I can look at it one way and be like, whatever. Like, it's more about the individual lives I get to affect and everything else. And then I can look at it the other way, like, this helps me immensely to help more people and to, impact more people and to get more eyes on the work that I'm doing, and therefore be able to create more of the transformation that is so friggin' important to me. Excuse me. Oh, I need to clear my throat. I didn't realize I was going to be so emotional. So long story short, by lunchtime yesterday, by breakfast time, it's already a blur. Before breakfast was even over, I had already made, bestseller in several categories in the US. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, it really might be possible to do this internationally. And with the help of, my business coaches are in Canada. I've got friends and fellow podcast hosts in Canada. And I think, with their help, support, and their shout outs, I had it in Canada by the afternoon, like lunchtime their time. It was early afternoon my time, and I couldn't believe it. It was in the 2:00 hour my time, because I kept one appointment yesterday. That appointment was my hypnotherapy appointment. And for me, it was like, I knew it was important to, no matter what's going on in my life, to walk my talk. And I feel like hypnotherapy is an extremely valuable and transformative form of therapy. It helps me and it helps my clients, and I participate in it. If you've ever accessed my Better Therapy checklist, happy to put that in the show notes too. I have like a list of things that it's like, if you're going to get therapy, these are the things you want to look for. It doesn't matter whether it's hypnotherapy or something else. It's just like, there's certain standards that I think everyone should be looking for in the people who they are turning towards to receive therapeutic help from. And one of those standards is that they're walking their talk, If it's an EFT practitioner, they're doing EFT. If it's a hypnotherapist, they're partaking in hypnotherapy. If, talk therapists are doing their own talk therapy, whatever, or other things too. I do lots of other things to enrich myself outside of the modalities that I teach and coach in. And that also means that my teaching and coaching is always expanding and changing too. I think that's so important. And I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of practitioners out there that have just learned their thing, they do their thing, but they don't partake in their thing, they don't, keep growing their thing. So anyway, done preaching about that. I'll give you that checklist though in the show notes, because I do think it's really valuable, and and helpful. So I was getting ready to go to my hypnotherapy appointment, and that's when I got my publisher, Soulfully Aligned Publishing. That team there was kind of checking things for me all day, when checking the rankings on Amazon, all the different categories, all the other things, sending me screenshots. It was my husband, who does work more closely aligned in the reality of this, said to me at the end of the day, he's like, I was telling all my coworkers that like you had your own like war situation room all day. And I was like, well, I don't consider it that way. It's more like aligned love and support. But I knew what he meant. Like, it was my assistants were like, on the ready all day. Hey, tech issue, fix this, send out another email. We had broken links in our email in the morning. We had, issues with the wrong links being put places and things that needed to be corrected, things that like, oh crap, forgot to mention it on LinkedIn, forgot to put it here, put it here, get it there, repost this, answer this, that kind of stuff. So they were at the ready. My publishing team was ready to like go live with me in the morning and, do an interview about the process and reporting to me all day long about, rankings. Hey, we just need a little bit more here, just need a little bit more there. We're getting really close, starting the day, at, whatever ranking. I think at the beginning of the day, for the women in business category, I was like 44. And by 2:00, I was number 1. And that category meant a ton to me because that's a tough category and it's a big category. And going, from that extreme to number 1 by 2:00 was huge. We were, number 1 in hypnotherapy very early on in the day. And I don't even have the rest of the stats in front of me, but, we did those things in both the United States and in Canada, which meant that by 2:00 in the afternoon, I was an internationally best-selling author. And holy shit, like, I still can't wrap my head around that. And I apologize. There's going to be expletives in this. I don't apologize. Fuck it. There's going to be expletives in this episode, in this coaching episode, because what happened when I got that and I read that was just a big fuck yes. And I was jumping up and down in my kitchen and my dogs were looking at me like I was crazy. And Mowgli came over because he's the jumping one. He's my puppy. He's the one that jumps really high. If you saw my stories the other day in the morning, he nailed it with how I was feeling. But he's jumping on me. We're dancing together in the kitchen and I am just jumping up and down. Fuck yes. And just pumping my fists and like I just couldn't believe it. And I had to leave like within 5 minutes of that to go to my appointment. And that energy that like, oh my God, nailed it. Like I had a few people to message and thank and, and to tell the news to. And I'm driving to my hypnotherapy appointment and that's when it like hit me. And I picked up my phone and by the time you listen to this, I probably will have shared it already. And I'm not a fan of trying to do anything with the phone while driving, but it hit me at that time and I was like, I need to, I was on a side road. Like it wasn't whatever. This isn't me trying to justify it, but I guess it is me trying to justify it. I used my phone while I was driving. Okay. But I had to capture the moment because it was happening right then and it just hit me. And like, I just kind of started crying and what hit me was that I had just achieved international best-selling author. And I was on the way to my hypnotherapy appointment, the one appointment that I kept. And I had just gone number 1 in hypnotherapy books. Like, it was so surreal. Like, walking in to see my hypnotherapist, and I was like, you're going to hypnotize the current number 1 best-selling author in hypnotherapy books. Like, how crazy is that? And, she was so proud of me. And the thing that got me all day long was all the people that kept saying, I'm so proud of you, Theresa. That just felt so good. And, it wasn't like immediate family or people that I would like expect that from. It was friends that I've made through business. It was my clients. It was, fellow podcast hosts, people I've interviewed, people who've interviewed me, people who I've, worked in, business stuff together with, so many people. And there's voice messages that people left me the other day that I will cherish forever. And, yeah, it was amazing. And I got home. I didn't have time to leave my kids a note before I left, but I did leave the telephone on the table and I called. Also, they were one of the people I called on the way to the hypnotherapist. And I just said, guys, I didn't have time to leave you a note, but I just wanted to let you know, Mommy became an international bestseller today. And I could hear them just like jumping and like, yeah, they were so excited. And when I got home from my appointment, they had made me a banner that, we hung up in the kitchen above their artwork, that, said you did it and everything else. I told my husband, and, I only had time to like text him before I left, and, told him I said I fucking did it. And of course his answer was, of course you did. I was like, and he already had a gift for me. Like, it was like he already knew it was in the bag. And I guess I was the only one that was in disbelief. But anyway, that was kind of yesterday. And so my husband and I went out when he got home from work, and we got cupcakes and things to celebrate with the kids. And yeah, it was quite the day. I'm still processing it. By the evening, I realized I was just too exhausted to continue messaging the long list of people who I promised I would get in touch with on launch day so that they wouldn't miss, the launch day special that I was running. So I did decide to, extend that an extra day. And this morning I'll be making sure that people who wanted that were able to get that before, all the rest of the versions and things and the regular pricing goes into effect, which has probably already happened by the time that you're listening to this. But yeah, so that's a recap from the morning after a day of launching, which was a Monday, which preceded a weekend that was like 12-hour days of prep and doing things to get ready for that day yesterday. And it was so nice and so beautiful and so wonderful to receive all the love and all the support and all the outpouring that came yesterday. And I will be forever grateful for it, knowing that, this book landed in the hands of people that really wanted it yesterday, that really, I think, are going to benefit from its message. And if you have purchased the book, I'm so excited to read your reviews on Amazon. Please, please, please post them. They mean so much to people who look for books. I know when I look for books, I always read reviews. And unfortunately, people judge books by their covers. They judge books by reviews. And your reviews mean so much to other busy-minded, professional, entrepreneurial women, mamas who are looking for answers and could very well find what they're looking for within its pages, and all the bonus resources and other things that come along when you get the book. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I want to share with you the stuff for the week 9 bonus week of coaching, which, part of that is just what I've already shared, in that, when you're going for something, just give it what you've got. That's what I did. I certainly could have done more yesterday. If I had, spent a month or so advertising and promoting and getting ready, I probably could have done way more. But I wanted to get this book out there, and I did enough. And knowing that we're enough, I think, is the main thing that so many of us are lacking, and that needs reminding, and that needs reworking on a subconscious level for so many of us. And for me, it's more important to get this book out there with the genuine, beautiful efforts that I gave it yesterday than it would have been to try to get it out there. Oh my goodness, we just lost our power. That was strange. If you're watching the video, you will have seen it just went absolutely dark. Everything just turned off and on again. Huh. Anyway, if you've been sticking with me with the coaching throughout this, the 8-week coaching program was intended to go through Becoming More Me, the book, week by week. Some weeks we, covered one chapter, some weeks we covered multiple chapters, but we did go through it in order. So at this point, as we're, ending things with this bonus week 9, we are very close to the end of the book. So I want to make sure that I'm not, there's no spoiler alerts or anything here, but, for those of you who haven't experienced the beginning parts of the training, then definitely, go back and check those out. And there's no spoiler alerts in the coaching. Like, everybody that did the coaching program with me didn't have the book, because it wasn't released until after week 8. And that was the point, was like, we're getting ready for the book. We're getting excited for the book. I'm reading excerpts. We're talking about, what those mean to us, how others relate to them, how those things show up in your life, and so on and so forth. But at this point, in this last final week, we're on chapter 15. The book has 16 chapters. And chapter 15 is called Let's Get Present. And it begins with a quote from Oscar Wilde, which is, "One's real life is so often the life that one does not lead." I think this is part of the reason why it was really important to me to show up and record this coaching, record this episode about my book launch as close to in the moment as I could, reflecting on it and wanting to share the presence, the feelings, the emotion that went into that, because so often we don't lead our real life. And this is me showing up in my real life, knowing that, in about 5 minutes, I need to get off of here and get my kids ready for school. So this is going to be probably the shortest of the coaching sessions. So please realize so much of what I shared about the book launch, there's coaching in there. And in so many of my stories, in so many of the things I share in this book, I'm looking to you to connect the dots, to see in you those parallels in your life, in your marriage, in your business, in your parenting, in your desires and your intentions, and see as I walk my walk through it and as I share my own stories, client stories, different other things that convey what's necessary at different times in the book, that you have those same things in you. I know that my readers, my listeners, my community members are smart. You guys are smart, 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 and you can definitely connect those dots. And, in getting present, it's really important to understand the power of our intention. And I talk about one of my favorites, Wayne Dyer, in this chapter, and share a quote from his book, which is actually called The Power of Intention, where he says, "By banishing doubt and trusting your intuitive feelings, you clear a space for the power of intention to flow through." But here was the problem with me. And throughout my book, I talk about this major pivot that happened for me roughly 7 years ago, right as my fourth and youngest child was coming into the world, and then everything that kind of transpired from there, and also everything that happened previously in my life that led me to that pivot. It's a full circle kind of a thing. And lacking intention, lacking a really deep reason for why I was doing things that I was doing, had me going down a lot of rabbit holes, side projects, distracting things over and over in my life that were not fulfilling, were not purposeful, and didn't, get me to the place I wanted to get in my life. So this chapter talks a lot about our intention, and also about the power of being able to let things go when they're not aligned. Just because you started something from a misaligned place, or you didn't quite understand why you were doing it, and then you realize, I don't need this, does not mean that you need to follow through with something or finish it. And I specifically share in this chapter about the last attempt, before I actually wrote the book, before, this published book that you can now get your copy of on Amazon came into the world. I had made several attempts to write it on my own, without help, without accountability, without the right support and the right team. And the problem was, I didn't pay attention to what I already knew about myself, which was that trying to do it with that kind of a schedule and that kind of rigidity was going to be way too hard to execute with 4 kids, erratic schedules, and already, a big client load, and, kids having random sick days and minimal hours to focus on my work in general, nonetheless to add writing a book on top of it. At the last time that I tried doing this book on my own, my youngest was only in preschool, and that only happened several days a week for several hours at a time. I think I literally had maybe 12 hours after I dropped people off and returned back to home where I work during the week to do uninterrupted work. And that was if no one was sick, if no one had an in-service day or a holiday or whatever else, 12 hours a week. And I was doing amazing things with that 12 hours, but I was trying to also write a book to it, and it was way too much. And at that point, I was not honoring the white space necessary to actually get the traction I needed to be able to be more and not do more. So I ended up, abandoning ship on the project because it felt restrictive. It felt like it was holding me back, not helping me expand. And you have to notice those things in your life, because when we resist our own expansion, that is when we feel the most pain. And when we're trying to do things that we have resistance to, we have to look into why we feel resistant. Sometimes that resistance requires us to break through it because everything we dream of, want, and desire is on the other side of us figuring it out. And sometimes it's totally okay, safe, and even, better to not follow through with those things. And this is where getting in touch with our intuition and our gut is of the utmost importance, because if we don't have contact with that, if we don't have integrity there, we don't know the difference. So that's a lot of what I talk about as I kind of help readers to get present in the last chapter and understand how to do that in real time through the lens of what it was like for me to pick up and put down this project and finally get to the end of it. So let me read you a little excerpt from chapter 15 that deals with how I processed releasing the project of writing before I picked it back up again with the right intentions, the right reasons why, and the right environment to actually pull it off, become an international bestseller, oh my God, and do this thing. Trying to write on a specific schedule brought up a lot of resistance. Knowing I had already tried and failed several times, I felt I needed a different approach. When that new approach also failed me, I put aside the idea of writing for the rest of the year. But I did so from a conscious place. I meditated and tapped on the issues and feelings I was having so I could be clear that I wasn't putting it aside from a place of self-sabotage or giving up. Putting the project on the back burner supported my need to gain more clarity and join forces with my reasons for writing the book in the first place. Instead of trying to write my book and getting less than stellar results, I dropped it entirely. I let myself off the hook. I mentioned how this can be really beneficial at the end of the last chapter. I literally took all the book writing tasks off my list and freed myself from the project. I made a choice official with some tapping. You can probably adjust this round for yourself if you have a similar need to release and refresh something in your life. And at that point in the book, I lead you through an entire tapping exercise all about letting yourself off the hook or changing your plans. And I encourage you to check that out if you're reading the book or know that it's there and go get it. And in the bonus resources for my book, I actually do an entire video version of that with extra guidance, extra ideas, and extra, resources to really be able to dial in on how to do that for yourself in a really specific way, because EFT tapping does really favor specificity. So just know that that is there. I talk so much more about it in the chapter. And then in the final chapter of my book, I am going to leave that one up to you guys that read the book. I do not want to spoil what is in there because that is really, the chapter is called Tying It All Together. And that really is what the last chapter is all about. And I feel like it would be a spoiler to give you all of that, integration and encouragement and everything else in the way that it's given in the book before you read the book. So I'm excited to read your reviews. I'm excited to hear your feedback. You can email me, you can message me on social media, post in your stories. Let's keep this, excitement going. I'm soaking it all up with gratitude and so grateful for each and every one of you that has had interest, that has shared, that has, told me what you're feeling or going through as you're reading the book. I love, love, love it all. It's why I did it. And I can't wait to hear more and more about the transformations that come for you as you tie it all together and go through the process of becoming more me through the lens of this book. Thank you so much. I still cannot believe that I am starting this day with an international bestseller as my book that I've been working on for so long. It's surreal, absolutely surreal. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you.
Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.